Joe, Billy G, my slice. And the others will be joining us in a moment. Give you a quick update on my leg. I'm all right. I'm hobbling about. I'm fed up. I'm not sitting on that bed anymore. Can't do it. It's driving me crackers, isn't it, Mark?
Yep.
So, and normally, my leg, the tendons and the ligaments in my leg are so bad that if I sit there and strap them up, they'll just bond to my leg again, and then I have to go through the same thing in another 6 months. So, the plan going forward is grit your teeth and get on with it, Deb. So, for everyone who's worried about me not going to Fuse, I will be there come hell or high water. Miles has been very accommodating. But train tickets are booked. Mark's going to take me to the station. Mark's going to pick me up again. When I get down that end, Miles is going to get me from the station and take me to the B&B. So, no walking for me to do. I can sit on a chair on the stage and away we go. So, I can see Darren's in as well. So, yeah, I will definitely be at Pewsey. Don't worry about that. I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest. I've never been. It's not an area I've been to. I know Mum's been there with her dad. But I had a look on Google Earth and it looks absolutely amazing. So I actually can't wait to get down there. I'm sober. Really looking forward to the talk as well. People have asked me what I'm going to be talking on. So I'm trying to condense, obviously, 40 years down into a 2-hour talk. And there'll be a break in between so I can sit down and take my meds and everything. So I think what I'm planning on doing is, first part of it, first half an hour or so, is about my experience, what happened and how I got into BBR and the cases that came in early for me. The second part of the talk will be about dogman creatures, really, more than just the Bigfoot experience, because obviously that's what I started out with, and then I broadened, myself, because you've got to remember, in the beginning I was looking for an ape, I was looking for an escaped ape from the circus, and now I take reports of all kinds of creatures, don't I? So that'll be the first hour. And then as we go into the second hour, we're going to do cryptids that are seen on RAF bases and MOD bases, really. And then we're going to finish on the predisposition of having a paranormal family line. And when I say paranormal, I use that word very loosely. There isn't really a word for it, is there? Because some people see like UFOs, other people experience spirit, for some people it's shadow beings. So what I'm talking about is where it goes in families, so like each generation has their own story to tell. Much like tonight's premiere that we did from Biddulph. Hi Fonda, hi Margaret, Soul to Soul. I don't know if I missed my slice, so I'll say hi to him again just to be on the safe side. When Phil got in touch with me, it was about 18 months ago. And he asked me if he could share an experience with me. And I said, yeah, of course. Whatever way you want to do it, whatever way makes you comfortable. And I always offer people an option. So I'll say to them, it depends on what you want me to do. Do you want to just have a private conversation with me? Or do you want to write it out? Or do you want to leave me a voice message with it on? Depending on their level of comfort. So that's where I left it with him. And he vanished. And that's quite normal as well, because people will test the water a little bit. I did that. I did the same thing. You dip your toe in just to make sure this person's going to take you seriously or not. And I think he just wanted to watch and see what I was like, which is understandable, isn't it? He's having to talk to me, a stranger, about probably one of the only things he's never shared with his own family. It's a lot, and they've got to have confidence in you with that. And then he came back about 2-3 months ago now and said, right, Deb, I'm ready. And I was like, right, okay, how do you want to do it? And he was like, will you just ring me? And I was like, yeah, let's just do that. I'll just ring you, and then I'll tape the call, and then I'll type the call out that happened between us. So I've done that twice now. I've spoken with him twice. And obviously backwards and forwards with Messenger and things like that. And I was really grateful for the amount of research that he'd done online himself. Obviously, when I look at the area, Biddulph, and we'll talk about the name in a minute, what we've got is an area that used to be a family home, so a family seat, so the aristocracy. Big gardens, walled gardens that were made, and, coaches and horses would arrive, the whole 9 yards, right, Downton Abbey or whatever it is they call it. And then the Industrial Revolution hits, and like most people, that had a dramatic effect on a lot of our family lines. So for me, it meant that lots of country folk had to move into the towns because that was the only place there was to get work anymore. And you went down the pit or you went in the mill, and it decimated a lot of cottage industries, and it, you know, we're still paying for it all these years later. And then, as Phil explained to me, just like Biddulph, exactly the same as Biddulph, it just wasn't wanted anymore. So the last owners died. In Biddulph's case, there were no family members to pass it on to, so it was just taken by Bonavicante, which basically means if you don't leave a will, then the government get your assets. So it went to Salford City Council, and that was the same for Biddulph. So there was a chap who was entitled to it in Australia, a millionaire, and he didn't want it, so he just guested it to the council. So the wall gardens are still there. And then you've got the Serpentine, as I've shown in the video, and you've got Knarpersley Pool. Now, for all say Knarpersley, it's spelled K-N-Y, so it's like Knarpersley, if you're not from the area. So if you're looking for it, it's not N-A-R, it's K-N, but I'd look for Biddulph. Biddulph was surprising. So Phil said to me, I've looked at the coat of arms, Deb, and it's really strange. There appears to be on it, what I found out later was called a vulned wolf. So this is a wolf type of creature that's been shot in a flank. And we looked up the name, and like I say, that for Anglo-Saxons had said, oh, you know, it means that to bide by the digging place, which it does. But we weren't, you know, England wasn't started with the Saxons. We were here a very long time before them. And in Old English, it means to bide, meaning to live, by the wolf. Ulf, meaning wolf. So there must be some kind of connection with that area. Look at the local pub. The local pub's called the Bleeding Wolf. And that's the second public house that has been on that ground. So you've got family lines going back generations, whether you're aristocracy or you're a man working the land. So that could be a stocksman, that could be a bloke who's down the pit, who's probably just trying to get a rabbit or something for the pot, like you did back then. So this happened it was actually the autumn equinox of 1980. So Phil is down there, and there's a bridge. There's like an old, what I'd call a folly. Looks like a mini castle. And honestly, looking at the land down there, it was so like Rivington and Winter Hill. I was quite shocked. I was like, this is exactly the same. You might as well have just picked me up and put me in the same kind of place. People are asking about questions. If you could put your questions in capitals, and I'll check in a minute, and I'll make sure I'll answer them for you. I'll do my absolute best. So yeah, Biddulph, to bide by the wolf. So Phil that night is in his 20s, and he said he was doing a job for a farmer. There was a lot of ermine on the land, and he was going to set some traps out for it. And he said there was a massive moon, a really big harvest moon, and that's what he was concentrating on. He was really relaxed. He had the dog with him, and he said the dog's fine with him, but it can be a bit violent. It's a farm dog. It can be a bit violent with other people, and it's not one for giving a warning. It'll just nip. And he said suddenly the dog just stopped and bounced a couple of times on its front feet, which is unusual behaviour in a dog, which, means it was absolutely terrified. And what happened then was really strange. Everything went completely dark. So it wasn't that the moon was covered or that there was trees in the way. He's walking on a white limestone path on a harvest moon. He should be able to see it. Yeah. And he said it just went black. Everything went black around him. You could see nothing. Nothing in front of him, nothing behind him. So like he said, he's got this axe that he's going to use to tap in. You turn it around and use the other end to tap his stakes in. And he's got a dog lead and a dog collar. And he's got rhododendron bushes either side of him, so he can't even see into them. Yeah, so he said he just swung the lead. The dog took off and went, and he just swung the lead in the darkness because he thought it was a big bloke, or it was like, like someone up to no good, or he disturbed someone doing something not great. And that's what he did. And he said, Debbie, there was nothing there, but I heard it land from the tree. You could hear it go thud. And it took off over the field, and it looked like a bear as it was going. As it was moving, it was down on all fours, and it was moving like a bear. And he's thinking, oh shit, it's heading me off. That's the way I've got to go. And so he thought, right, I'm going to run to the next bit of light. And if I get to the next bit of light, I'll be able to size him up. I'll be able to see, because I'm not running from him. I'm going to have to front him. And like, yeah, mate, what you're up to kind of thing. So that's what he got ready for. And he said you couldn't see it. You just couldn't see it. You could hear it and you felt the thud of it, but you couldn't see it. So one was out in front of him and one was at the back of him. And I wonder if he'd walked into a hunting party of some kind. Maybe they were out doing what he was doing and trapping vermin, you know, for food. I'm just scrolling back. I'm not seeing them yet. I can't really answer that question. Someone's asked me a question about relationships. I'm not a psychic. I can't really answer that one for you. That's put me off to my track a bit. Yeah, so Biddulph, let's get back to Biddulph. So one lady wrote into me and said, Debbie, there's a cave system out there. Do you know about it? And I was like, no, I didn't know. I knew it'd be heavily mined because it's Stoke-on-Trent, and we know that these tunnels running underneath it and everything. So, like you said, the dog's gone. The dog's absolutely like off its head, and it's gone, and he's worried that dog's going to meet up with someone. Oh, it's going to run through a field of cattle and get stamped to death. And he said, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to stand and fight, run, or see to my dog. He said, and I just had to see to the dog, so that's what I had to do. So he sets off across the field, and dogs didn't feel panting. It's on ground panting. It's fine, but it's panting. And like he said, normally you'd have to click him on because all the cows and the heifers and that had come over for the dog. And they weren't. They were stuck in the top corner, just up there on their own in a circle, which is kind of unusual behaviour if you're crossing a field at night and it might with a dog. They don't normally bunk up in a corner, do they? They don't normally let you know, make a right racket. But yeah, so that was that experience. Someone's wrote a really dangerous step. Right, I'm just gonna go back. Right, a couple of ones I've seen. Why do they call my granddad Crazy Horse? Right, my granddad came from a family of Irish travellers, right? So he's from like the Carban area, Drumconrath, that kind of way. County Meath, County Louth, on the border there. And he never walked anywhere in his life. He always rode an horse, and he had a buggy, and he had his landau, and like even though he lived in a town, he still had loads of animals like it was a farm. So like we had the pig. We had to tie into a 56-pound weight because he just we had like 7 scrapyards, and he just walked between all of them all the time. And Steve can tell you better stories than me because he's older than me. But he used to tell everybody, right, that he was a Red Indian. And obviously he was a lot darker skinned than me because I've got my dad in me as well, haven't I? And like he had this curly hair and everything. And my mum said he was convinced. He used to tell everyone he was an Indian, he was a Red Indian. And everyone used to laugh at him about it. So at the time when everyone was buying cars and all that, he had a car and everything, he had a lot, but he liked his horses, he was horse mad. And he went everywhere with he had a gun. So they used to call him Crazy A offshore. But weirdly, Kiz, last year someone sent me a newspaper clipping from Salford and said, yeah, he might not be as daft as he's saying. And it turned out his granny Anna, his mum was called Anna, and her mother used to tell everybody that he was half an American Indian. And it said that they visited Salford. There was a tribe of them in Salford at that time. And you know, I don't know if any sweet nothings were whispered to my female relatives, but you just don't know, do you? No Native American DNA came up in my DNA test, but I could have a DNA test and my sister could, and she'll have a different DNA strand than me. So one of my sisters might, or one of Jed's kids might, you know. And the lads are all kind of dark-skinned and curly hair, but yeah, that was my granddad's claim to fame. Crazy Horse Show. We lived in a town, unlike Phil, we lived in a town, and the countryside was right on the edge of it. So, like, you'd drive cattle to market and the goose would go up there, and you had all of that on the edge of Salford. And then the town was, like, proper industrial. So it was kind of weird. But my dad couldn't stay in the town, as could my granddad. I mean, Sap will be fair, innit, this weekend? So they'd be out on an horse fair, and my dad would be fishing on Avon or Trent. Trent was his favourite river. So I've fished down. I've never fished Narpersley Pool, but I've fished down on the Trent down there. We've been had a few times. Amazing area, absolutely love it. So I'm just gonna have a scroll back. Soul to Soul saying me Romany granddad and me dad had horses in Cacalde, and he did a rag. My granddad was a rag and bone man, and people tell me I'm supposed to be ashamed of that, you know. Soul to Soul. When he came out of the Navy, he sent him away as a young boy in the Navy and destroyed him. And when he came back, he said he'd never take an order from another man again. So he started with an handcart. And then my nan said they used to get batteries at night and they'd put them on fire and get the carbide out of them. Is it carbide, Mark? And then he'd just go around with horse and cart and dolly blues, you know. People my age will know what that is. You get a dolly blue for your whites, and you get a donkey stone to clean your step, and or a balloon for kid or whatever. And he'd just pile us all on. And he had a big big horse called Lady, big cart horse. She was a piebald. She was beautiful. She was dead wide, so all kids could fit on her. So he put the grandkids on her, and up we'd go. And then he had this Palomino stallion. He was horse mad, absolutely horse mad. He had land in Southport, and he had horses there as well. But he grew up in the same way that Phil did. So they did catch rabbits, they did go out lamping. It's how they lived in the countryside back then. There was no dole. No one came to your door and give you the food hamper. There was no where you could go and get free food. So if you didn't hunt, trap, or fish it, you went without. Wages were that low that people couldn't spend money on meat. You know, think on, you had to pay for the doctor back then. You had to pay for the dentist. If your kid was sick, and that couple of shilling that you got for having your tea that week, you're going to have to pay that to the doctor. And people lived differently back then. So, like, some guy would bag a few rabbits, right? Say you get a brace of rabbits or something like that. And he'd swap you one of them for some eggs. And then you've got more eggs than you need, so you swap that for some spuds. And that's how it worked back then. So you put food on the table legitimately. And obviously, because the land is owned by landowners that on times don't even step foot on it, you're not allowed to hunt on there. You're not allowed to trap on there. It's called poaching. But there are estates out there in the UK that are owned by the world's biggest millionaires, and they've never been lived on. They've never been stepped on. But we're not allowed to use them. And these people are not from the UK. I mean, you've got the Japanese, you've got Russians, you've got Americans. I mean, look how much Trump's buying up in Scotland for his golf courses, yeah? This is what happens, and then we're not allowed on him. So it's seen as a crime. So back in the day, you could get hung for getting some pheasants to feed your kids. You know, you could get hung for it. So it was a hard time for them all back then. So people often say, oh, it must be easy. If you see a cryptid in the countryside, it must be really easy to talk to it. I don't think that at all. I think it's the complete opposite. Country folk are really down to earth. So they'd ridicule you, probably, in pub, if you said that you'd seen... You know, I asked him, what do you think they are? And he said at the time, I don't know. I didn't know what they were. But it was years after when I realised they were dogmen. That's what they were, Debbie. They were dogmen. So how does he raise that at the horse fair, right? Or how does he raise that, you know, when he's sat in pub having a pint on a weekend? I just think it's hard to do. Soul's just put, I'm so proud of my heritage from my father's side. My dad was a rare rabbit hairer, and I love your story, Deb. I was raised my entire life, soul to soul, to be ashamed of my Irish roots, to be ashamed of the fact that there's Romany in me, to be ashamed of the fact that there's traveller in me, because that's what society did back then, didn't they? They made you ashamed of it. And like now, I long for those days. I'd go back to those days in a heartbeat. Just things were much simpler back then, I know. And I'm old. I'm 57. But yeah, I'm not ashamed of it anymore. I'm flying my colours. If people don't like it, well, that's on them, innit, really? I don't really care. So, like, I want my girls to understand it in a way that I didn't. The grandkids do, don't they, Mark? They have no problem whatsoever with it. They're really quite proud of...
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are. And it's lovely to see that, because there's a lot of travellers speaking out at the minute, isn't they, saying, hang on a minute. Yeah. My mum and my dad worked 3 jobs each their entire lives. They worked 3 jobs each their entire life. My dad went to work at 14. Yeah, and he worked right up to him dying. He always worked. My dad was a grafter. And even when he retired, he had a market stall. So they both had jobs, then they had second jobs, and we always had the market. So, like, Lindsay was 13 cleaning barges and on Eccles Market working stalls and all that. You've got to... Andy Coles is from where I'm from. If you don't graft, no one knocks on your door and gives you money. They don't do the Andy. They're hard-working, honest people. Yeah? And, like... Andy was like me, he's not middle class. Some people will look down on you a bit if you're from Salford. You know, I have a regular troll and Ariel often have a go at me about being a gypsy, and I just think, I'm not ever going to be ashamed of being working class. I'm incredibly proud of it. I'm not ever going to be ashamed of my heritage, ever, at any point, you know, because that's my makeup, innit? I understand who I am now I know all of that. You know, I understand who I am, and I just think... No, I'm not. I'm gonna celebrate it. I'm not hiding it anymore. Soul to Soul said she's going back to her roots. I can't wait. I said to Mark, as soon as I were off, we need to book on. I've got barges on my dad's side of the family. They were barge gypsies. And I'd like to do that. I'd like to go and spend a weekend with Mark on a barge. Yeah. It's not a lot to ask, is it? So I think that's probably what we're going to do at some point, isn't it?
Yeah,
and I want to go back to Ireland. I've not been there since I was a girl. And Mark wants to go to Ireland, don't you? So that's something we're going to try and... You've got family in Ireland, haven't you? Well, I've got family in Ireland, but you've got family that you're close to.
Well, I've got a cousin.
Yeah, your mum's family, isn't it? Oh, hang on, I think we've got... if there's any trolls in, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on Deb, right? Say what you want, do what you want, don't really care, not interested. If you're not paying me bills, I don't really care what you write. But there's nothing wrong with being from Salford. I'm very proud of my Salford roots. Very, very proud of my Salford roots. Yeah. Just, my dad come from Ankry Park. Mrs. Mercury will know where that is. Ankry Park, it was heavily bombed, Salford, in the war. Very heavily bombed. We've got an what do you call it when it's an in-town port? What would you call it? An inland port. So we've got the ships that come in, so we were bombed heavily for that. And these big oil works, like massive oil works in Salford, right off there. So we were banned for that. And if Mrs. Mercury, if you think about where the Carlton Picture House was, where the big Toyota thing is now, that's where my granddad land was, right at the back of the... He used to call it the death tunnels in them days. We used to have this story in town that a German train and an English train, it had on there, and if you went and looked, you'd find bullets and helmets and all of that kind of thing. And being a scrap dad, my granddad had a lot of incendiaries that were brought in. My nan, I'm not lying. My nan had an incendiary. My mum will kill me for saying that. My nana had an incendiary cell as a door stopper, a brass one, for years and years and years and years, and it was a massive incendiary cell. But not laughing, do you know once, Mercury, my nana was telling us a tale, and she said she was 21 and sirens went off, and she had to run with a baby under each arm. Obviously, my granddad Jed's in the Seychelles on a boat somewhere being torpedoed. She's there on her own, and she said the plane came down so low over Cross Lane that she looked in the pilot's eyes. And that's just terrifying. And I try explaining that to my girls, and I say, like, you've no idea how hard they had it back then. It's nothing like this, you know. There's nothing like this. So when I'm sat speaking with people like Phil, and we're talking backwards and forwards like this, it's ace for me, because I can put myself in his position. Yeah. All he's gone out that night to do is trap a few... I don't know what... He didn't actually tell me what vermin it was he were after. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that's all he was doing. He was out setting traps. And obviously there's a part two, because I couldn't fit it all in one week. So not next week, I'm away next week, but the week after that, I'll put the second half on for you. And it kind of pulls things together. I think the saddest thing was, and we both agreed, that when you're younger and your grandparents start telling you stuff about the old ways and things like that, you don't really listen, do you? Like, you don't really listen. It goes in one ear and out the other. I mean, it did with me. And now I wished I'd listened a lot more than I did back then. You know, I wish I'd listened a hell of a lot more back then. I think I could have had a conversation with Jed about that thing I saw. I think he would have listened to me. Yeah, because, like, he was as crackers as I was. Yeah, that's what they used to say. I just don't think they should get people from countryside and make them live in towns. I think it cracks them up. I just do. I think it's just such a culture shock.
All the stimulation.
Yeah, possibly. But honestly, my mum and dad are hard grafters. They did. They like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, they always were. It's like, we were poor. Don't get me wrong. We were proper poor. One sec, just got a drink. We were right poor, but we always had food on the table. You know, we always had food on the table. We always had clean clothes. My mum and dad didn't spend money on, I don't know, it's insignificant things, let's put it that way, right? So, like, they could have done the cocaine palace and gone and bought leather sweets and all of this, that and the other, and they didn't. We just used to go away everywhere. So it's like, as soon as my dad finished work, then he'd just pile us all in and we'd go somewhere. We'd always be off. We'd done, like, from tip of Scotland all the way down to Cornwall. and we'd just go places. And we'd have a fish, and we'd run around in the woods. And like my favourite place was Ireland. When we were in Ireland, absolutely loved it. Loved it. Didn't want to come home. I was gutted when we had to come home. And I always tell this funny story. So the big town when we were in Ireland was Carvin, and Billy will tell you it's not a big town, is it, Bill? Yeah. And in the late 70s, it was even smaller town than that. So we get there, and the lady's like, there's me, Arlene's, and John and Glenn. So proper, right, ginger hair, freckles, the whole 9 yards, right? Me and my blonde sister who look Scandinavian. And we're both out of towns, but not like proper towns, like edge of the countryside towns. And we're there, and the lady says to us to go and get veggies for the tea. So we set off on this 7-mile walk to the shop. We come back with a tin of bachelor's peas, and she just cracks off laughing. Opens the back door, and there's every vegetable known to man in the garden. Yeah, and us town kids had walked 7 miles to get a tin of bachelor's peas. She spoke about it every day. Like it was amazing. Absolutely loved it. But we had to come back. There was no work, so you got to go where the work is, haven't you? When there was no dole back in them days, you just had the employment exchange. So Phil's family, like mine, would not have ate, would they? And like go back a few more generations. That's how everybody ate. People always say to me, "There's not enough food in the UK for cryptids." Well, there was enough food in the UK for humans, because we knew how to forage it and process it and eat it, and we weren't fussy like we are now, because we are fussy. I had my girls here yesterday, and I hope you're watching, Erica Crossley. And I'm hobbling round on one leg, and I've got Jodie and Erica, and our Layla and our Zane and Mark. So we decided that we're all going to have sausage butties. So we put a raft of sausages in, enough for a town. All the bread, and Erica goes, I don't like nothing. So it was like, well, we've got bacon, do you want that? No, I don't like bacon. I was like, well, what are you going to have? Have you got mac and cheese? No, I haven't got mac and cheese, but I'll go out and I'll buy it for you. So Mark had to fly out, get the mac and cheese, comes back with the mac and cheese. She goes, no, it's not the right one, it's not in the right box. So she ended up having a bowl of ice cream. So I said to her, back in my day, there was a real alternative for that, and it was called going without. And maybe I'm just being a bit soft with you. But she didn't. She's 27, by the way, and this is why I'm moaning. Yeah, but yeah, she had a bowl of raspberry ripple ice cream. I offered a Neapolitan, and she said yeah, until I told her it was a choc ice. And she went, I don't eat choc ice cream. So I had to give her the baby's ice cream. So yeah, I caused a bit of a stir in I've got to get a name again. There's a traveller group on Facebook, and it has some of the old recipes in it, and I love it. So there's loads of us in there, and it's just about food. It's not about anything else. It's just about food. So old traveller, like stuff that you'd absolutely love. So we have a thing in our house, like me and Mark. I like my bacon burnt. I like it like so it snaps like that. But if Mark's doing it, sometimes it's got like, you know, that stringy fat on it. And I don't like that. I like my fat so it melts in my mouth. So I put a thing up saying, he's just made me bacon butter. And as far as I'm concerned, this is undercooked. Yeah. So there's a massive spread now, about 250 jippos, ripping the shit out of me. Saying there's nothing wrong with that. And he made it, yo. And, you know, get some brown sauce on it and all that, weren't there? Yeah. But one lady put, I absolutely love those plates. My mum had those plates. And I was like, you know, they were my mum's plates. And I absolutely adore them. And I have bits, you know, a few bits and pieces from me. I love all my traveller stuff, don't I? I have it everywhere. It's everywhere in my house. But yeah. I bet everyone's sick of me talking about it, aren't they? I would imagine. Oh, they're talking about food. Could do with the sausage butty right now. I got to be honest, we have a bacon butty most days, don't we? Yeah. We do like a bacon butty for our dinner. Yeah, we do. I mean, we don't have posh bacon. We only got Aldi. We don't got Waitrose or out like that. We don't even know. I don't think there's even a Waitrose around here, is there, Mark? No, there isn't. But yeah, we don't go for that expensive, like Tesco bacon. I'm going to tell you a story about my state, and it's absolutely true. Mark will stand by this. We were down here the other day, and I decided to go to Farm Foods for the sweet and sour that I like, because it's the only place that stocks it anywhere. And I'm not going to name them, because it's not fair enough. But one of our local shoplifters was on a mobility scooter with a girlfriend, and she pulls, as we come out of there, she pulls the top up and goes, "Do you want to buy any steak? Do you want to buy any steak?" It was like, no, we don't, thank you. No, we don't want to buy any steak. I said to him, if I wrote that on Facebook, no one would believe me, would there? There's been 3 murders here in the last month. Just dumping bodies all over the place, aren't they? It's absolutely ridiculous. They found a head at the back of my mum's house. Mum and Aunt and Doris think it's amazing. Yeah, taxi driver got pulled in for it and everything. Because he was the last one to drop him off. Oh, what do you say? Trouble at mill. Oh, trouble at mill, as they used to say. For anyone who's listening back to this, I'm sorry if I keep looking at the chat. I'm just trying to make sure I've not missed any questions. So, how many more Phils are there out there? I suppose that's what I'm getting to. Right, well, in that alone, there are 3 other reports. One that came into Lon Strickler of, I'll get it in a minute, Phantoms and Monsters. He does the Phantom and Monsters blog. So a chap from Mocop got in touch with him. He was out doing a bit of poaching, as you do. And he saw what he described as a werewolf stood up on 2 legs. This is within walking distance of where Phil's seen that thing come out of the tree. And then there's the other incident. So that happens to him, and he's never going back there again. That's what he said. I'm never going back on that land again. But about 5 years later, he did. So the first time when he's coming in this way to the area. The second time, he's coming in from village. So he's coming in this way. Him and 2 lads, torches in the pockets. So we're out on like country land and also a place where you've had an old manor house. There's no street lights out there or anything like that. And he starts persisting down heavily. So they run under the yew tree, and all 3 of them are under the yew tree, and he thinks, right, I'll have a fag. So he took them because he said, I had a box of Swan Besto. They were the day matches then, weren't they, Mark? Swan Besto. Used to be able to get a 10p box of them cheapy ones. So as you light a match, it flares, doesn't it? And his mate's here, and he lights and goes to smoke it, and his mate goes, run. Oh, thank you, Skull. That's really kind of you. Run. And as he turns and looks, he said there was a hairy man, big, thickly muscled, beard on him, scraggly beard thing, standing there at the back of him. They didn't hear it approach, and they didn't hear it go away. And he said, as they all turned around like that, because obviously you're just going to scatter, aren't you, in different directions. He's gone. He's completely gone. So they get the torch out and they start looking. Nothing out there. Absolutely nothing out there. So like you said, that was his time going back, where he's thinking, right, I'll go back, nothing. What are the odds of lightning striking twice? You know, you're not going to get scared in the same place, are you? And unfortunately he was. So I think he's really brave, the fact that you can, he'll still go there and like walk the dog and stuff like that. And as I said, a few people got in touch with me and gave me their own weird stories about the area that they were talking about. And they were saying that they'd always wondered why it was called the Bleeding Wolf. I would love to go back as far back in time, but I can only get as far back as the Doomsday Book. So the first written records about the Biddulph people appeared in an Aziz from the 1125. So that's about as far back as I can get. Oh, thank you, Mike. That's really kind. Apparently I can click these and make a love art on them. There, I did it. I am getting better at it. But yeah, so all of that. Matt, would you just do me a cold drink, please? I've run out of brew. So that's as far back as I can go. So if you're from the area and you know anything about the Biddulph family, please get in touch and let me know. Because there's got to be a reason why they got that heraldic crest has a wolf on it that's been shot in the shoulder, and there'll be a story to that, and it'll be written down somewhere, hopefully. Because let's be honest, in 1125, people couldn't read and write. You had to pay someone, a scholar would do it for you, or you'd pay what they would call a journaler or a scholar to do it for you, and they would write it down. Like Pliny, he was a journaler. If it was Caesar that Pliny did it for. Pliny also wrote about the Silvestries, which were grey, hairy men that lived in the woodlands when they were here with the Romans. But yeah, I want to know, and the heraldic motto, to seek for higher things. That's a strange one, But there was someone out there. There'll be a historian out there who knows the story and probably knows why. Right, Slice has just asked me, have I had any reports recently from north of the border? Which north of the border? England? I know, but there's a lot of borders. There's a Welsh border, a Scottish border, there's a border in Ireland. Like, beat me in. Yeah. Wait, you're going to have to tell me which border. I'm getting behind on myself. Ah, Scotland. Let me have a look. I've got my map on in front of me, Slice, at the minute. Give me a sec. It's not the map I need on, it's my notes. I have got about 25 sighting reports that I haven't had a chance to actually put onto the map yet or read through. So at the minute, it's a bit of a hard question for me, but I'm seeing 4 here. Let me have a look. So I've got October 2021, right on the edge of the border, and it says, all you got to understand, so the map comes in, Slice, I get the email, I write the title on the map and I pin it, and then I just copy and paste the email onto my blog, an old blog that I don't put out, and that's just what I do. So the whole report is on that blog. And that's just over the border. But there are another 2. So that's October 2021. Right, I know what that one is. So we've got 12th of March this year. Chap in Skinflats driving, and he sees a female run in front of the car in front of the road. But he was there in, I think it was 2019. Oh, that's just bloody moved on me that now. Shouldn't have done. My map's stuck on touchscreen. I don't want it on touchscreen. I want it on the other. It won't let me do it. What I'll do, Slices, when I've finished, I'll have a look. Mark's going to get me some chocolate, and when this is over, I'm going to go to bed and have a brew. I'll have a look and see what my latest Scottish one is, and I'll put it up on Community Post so you can have a read of it. I've had a lot of really, really good reports come in. Obviously, because of Daisy sharing what happened to her down on the Surrey-Sussex border, we had Jacob come forward from the Isle of Wight. So when I put Jay's story out, other people have come forward from the Isle of Wight, but also people who said, shit, that happened to me when I was a kid. Never entered my head it could be like a werewolf or a, we just put it down to like when we were kids. I think when you're a kid and you get chased, you give it a name, don't you? So some people will say like, oh, we got chased by the zombies in that wood, or we got chased by this bear thing. So I've had a lot of reports like that come in, and like I say, I just haven't had a chance. I'm so limited in the minute with what I can do. Between pain and fatigue, I'm getting desperately behind, believe me. But people are being really patient with me, which is amazing. So there are new reports coming in constantly. I'm going to read them out, just obviously because I've got it here. Right, so we've got local man sees the Biddulph Creature. That's the one you've heard tonight. And then we've got, I saw a black-eyed werewolf. Next one, a towering 8-foot white goatman. Big cat, 3 times the size of a Labrador. Stalked by a grunting thing. I saw a man beast in the Forest of Dean. The Hythe Mossman. Isle of Wight werewolves. A strange experience at the, let me get it up, cemetery. A horrifying scream and feelings of being watched. A dogman standing at the bottom of our garden. He was a man, but also a wolf. I never camped there again. A 3-toed footprint. I witnessed a UK dogman, and it just keeps going. She ran out in front of my car. A local man sees a flying humanoid. The Mulbean hyena. Wickham Woods possible guggoose. Shimmer bean, and it just goes on and on and on. And I can't catch up with him because it's getting to be a bit of a thing. But when Pews is over and I come home, I'll sit down, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a month out, and I'm just going to sit down and catch up and get caught up and everything, so we can kind of jump back in again and keep going. I've been doing a bit of TV work behind the scenes, and it's the busiest time of year for TV companies because they're getting their autumn schedule ready. So that happens kind of. So when you see Paranormal Caught on Camera go out, it's been made at this time of the year, but you probably won't see it till October, November time. And some programmes work about 12 months in front. because you've got to do all the research on it. So when they come to you with a case, so it's not just a matter of me giving them a witness. I've got to kind of do the research on that site. So how can I give you it? Right, well, the pets haunting. So the TV show for that is obviously I've sent over the CCTV images and I've sent over the audio, but then they want like the timestamps and what you can hear on the audio, so the air experts can go through it. So you do all of that. Then you do all of the looking into the family history and going back through the family lines to like and link Burton and pets together. So like kind of brings the whole thing together. Now that might not go out till November, December. So the work on that's been done. So once we get to about July-ish, that starts to slow down. I don't have to do as much as that then. But then, come November, they'll start the spring. So they want the programmes to come in for spring then, so it kind of all starts up again. So it's just a matter of trying to fit all of that in with the BBR stuff. And I'm not moaning, it's a good problem to have. There's that many reports that are coming in, it's just I need a bit of time to catch up on them. So that's what I've been doing. I've missed loads of people's live streams, and I really enjoy them. I enjoy Locks a lot, but because they've been on later at night, I've been really. The doctor gave me some tablets, didn't he, for vertigo, and they're really good. They really are working, but they do make you feel extra tired. Like, and he said that's normal, that I wear off on me. So I've been taking them, and I'm really pleased with them. How did I fall? I just went dizzy. I put my foot in front of myself and everything spun round and I'm facing you like this and I ended up that way, face down on the floor. I knew I'd go in, so I just tucked in like that. But I felt my toes buckle. And Mark said like my foot went underneath me and everything. You know when you just twist everything? So like I twisted my knee, I twisted my ankle, I twisted my foot and I twisted my hip. So I'm not in any great pain until I stand on it. But that's normal for me, that. What are the tablets called, Mark, for the vertigo? Will you just have a look? Mike's just asked me and I'll put them on screen so we can have a look at them. They really have helped. If you flick your head back really quickly, like, it still happens. And if I get up too quick, it still happens. But I've had a number of different things for vertigo and they're awful. But these, no side effects whatsoever other than a bit of fatigue. And honestly, I've slept better. And normally I'll moan my head off about tablets. I don't like taking them. And I said to the doctor, I don't want to take any more tablets. But they really are good. So you can take 3 a day if you want. Or you can just I like being compass mentis so I can work. So at night time. Or if I'm having a really bad vertigo, I'll take extra. But check them out. Ask your doctor about them. Bethahistine. They're just an antihistamine. But they really have made a remarkable difference. So I've not been able to get in the car because obviously travelling in the car sets everything off. And I've got to admit, I'm really scared now, aren't I? Since that last crash, I'm really scared. I'm like, I've tried a few things to kind of help. So I've tried like putting my music on so I'm not looking at all the cars, but it's just an overstimulation of like vehicles coming from all directions because every single time we've been hit, we haven't actually done anything wrong. And we've been hit from several different directions now, haven't we? All other driver errors. So it's like, I'm not scared of Mark's driving. I'm scared of all the other people out there driving it. I'm a bit of a nervous Nelly in the car at the minute. So he was going to drive me down to Wiltshire and I was just like, I can't do it. I can't. There's no way I'm going up motorway all the way. I just can't do it. It's really, in a way, it's a bit upsetting because I've not been wanting to go up Winter Hill as much because of the drive. It's just the drive there, and it's like, I'm scared to death by something like this again. But I'm trying. I'm really trying. So the other day, I concentrated on a video on my phone. I put my music on and just concentrated on the video, and it was a bit better. But even just nipping to the local store, I'm really nervous now. It was like, on this time, we were driving, and it was a line of parked up cars. And we're on A6, which is a busy road anyway, and you don't expect anyone to just suddenly turn out into full traffic, and that's what they did. I don't know what he were thinking. Didn't put his indicator in, and it just turned out into moving traffic. So if it hadn't been us here, he'd have hit someone else, you know. Massive mistake on his part, and he's just spun the car on and took off. He didn't even stop, did he, love?
No.
He just left us there. I'm in car screaming about my hand. And luckily, loads of people stopped and come and helped us. But it's frightened me a bit. It's made me a bit scared in the car. But like Mark said, that's normal, and you know, I'll get over it going forward. Slice is saying he's had that. Billy said, Billy, when I had my accident, my foot, I walk on my toes. I have what's called an equine gait, so my ligaments are stuck to my legs. They're calcified, literally, to my legs. So I have to have physio to break them up. So, like, I have to really, like, I've got tears in them and everything, and down here, all of these ligaments here, they're all torn. I've had some recent scans on them. So they're basically falling apart. There's nothing I can do about it, and you can't really change your ligaments to do anything like that. So the idea being is just grit your teeth and keep your leg moving. That's it. Grit your teeth and just get on with it. So I'm not taking any extra pain meds because I don't want them. And honestly, it's a bit stiff and a bit sore, but nothing more than I'm used to. It's just frustrating. I just get frustrated because I can't do what I want to do. Ideally, I want to get in the car and go to Biddulph. I want to go down to the Grange and Narfisley Pool, and I want to stand there at the same time at night that he did. I want to feel it, see what it's like down there. I'd love to meet him down there and talk to him about it and sit down and just have a brew and say, right, come on, me and you. No cameras, no phone call, just me and you. Let's just sit down and have a talk about it. I'd love to be able to do that, but I just can't do travelling, can I? I can't do it. So, yeah, and it reminded me of other reports that between him and me. So there's another report by a chap, similar situation, lives on a mining village right on the edge of the fields. And it's something I've shared with you before. He's only about 7 and he wants to go and play in the den that him and his mates have made in local woods. And he goes down there and he sees at first what he thinks is like a big effer on side on. So like a colour like this browny colour. Big like bullock, because he's thinking it's a big bullock or something in there. And that's scary enough when you're a kid to be confronted with that. But he realises that that's just part of this being that he's seeing. And this being does this with its fingers and there's an orb within it. And as he lowers it, the orb lowers with him and raises with him like, ow. Yeah, like that. And he goes back. He said, I'm standing there and I know I've locked the dog up at home because I once didn't lock the dog up and Grandad gave me a right pasting for it. And he said, I'm just froze by this being that I'm seeing. And the dog is suddenly at his side. So the dog's putting itself between him and what he's seeing. And he said, that snapped me out of it. The dog growled, and that growl was enough to snap me out of it. And he just sets off running for home. He said, I left the dog on the field. The dog was like clearly protecting me. And he said by the time he got back to Grandad's house, obviously the dog had met him there. When he told Grandad what he'd seen, he got a pasting. He said he got a right hiding off his Grandad, really bad. And he said he just give me a right pasting, Deb. And the next day, Grandad had a talk with the farmer about what was going on down there, and he went out with his shotgun. He said, and when he come back, he never spoke to me about it again. It wasn't a discussion that we ever had, but he just said to him, you don't need to worry about that anymore. So how many of these stories are in farming families that have never been discussed? How many farmers have seen them or seen weird stuff on the land? I got a report this week from somebody who told me about what they described as a wild man picking up a sheep and running off with it. Just like literally picking it up and running off with it. They weigh something, don't they? Amused. Yeah. There's some weight in them, isn't there? I was just looking at hoo-has. Do you know hoo-ha? There's one of them on here, the channel name's hoo-ha, and every time I see it, it tickles me. Because that means something else in Northwest, doesn't it? Oh, yeah. Hoo-ha. Yeah. But yeah, every time I see it, it tickles me. Yeah. But no, I know how many other people are out there. They've been fishing and they've seen something while they're fishing, right? How many poachers have been out and they can't make that report because they're on the land poaching, because I take reports from land management. I take reports from like people. When you have a posh country estate, there's always a land manager, isn't there? There's always what we call a parker. There's always someone on there who's a bailiff who's going to catch you if you're poaching and you're going to be in shit. And back in them days, they'd give you a good hiding. I mean, I suppose they still do now, but you get a good hiding rather than police getting brought in, But it was a way of life back then. People were starving. They had no other way of doing it. So you get an hare for the pot or you get a couple of pigeons, And that's how you fed your family that day. That was quite normal. And we were talking about it today, about bone broth, weren't we? And I was saying that I'd noticed in the shops now they started making meals and putting bone marrow in.
Yeah, probably.
Because all that stopped in the 70s because we went on to processed food. And as humans, we're supposed to eat bone marrow and all the gelatin and everything off the bones. It's really good for you. It's full of collagen. Like my bones wouldn't be this bad, would they, if I'd had what my dad were eating? Yeah.
That's everything your body needs.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But it's not now. But they're adding it back into foods now because they're realising that it's much better for your bone system growing up, for your skeleton. We used to eat a lot of offal, and that's really, really good for like depression and things like that. And we don't, it's not a thing anymore, is it? People don't do it anymore. But I think there's a lot of people going back that way, because they want farmed meat. When you buy meat from a supermarket, that's cruel. In my eyes, it's cruel. They haven't had a life. They haven't. If you get it from farm shop, it's entirely different, isn't it? But you're not left with any choice, have you? That's what you've got to do. And like, I get it. Believe me, I get it. I was a meat eater. My dad was a meat eater, and all my kids were. My mum is a vegetarian. My sister's a complete vegan, as is my niece. So I grew up in an house where I heard both sides of the argument. Yeah, and like my mum used to say, you should eat what you feel right with. She won't eat anything with a face. So it's different. And some people go fishing, they don't bring the fish home, they release it, don't they? Because that's what they do. It's a spectrum of what you think is right. And somewhere on that spectrum, you're going to be either agree or disagree, aren't you? But back in the day, it was exactly the same. Everything that ended up on your table was poached or fished or hunted or trapped, because that's how you got it. Or you paid a farmer a decent amount for the meat. Because you can't even do that anymore. Yeah. Do you know there are places in Alaska that if you catch something and you've got an excess and you want to share it with the villagers, you're not allowed to do it? Madness, isn't it? Just like back in the day of clans, if you had a deer, you divvied it up. Everybody got a bit. Yeah, you shared it out and everybody fed that day. But yeah, they've even made that a crime now. So you can't like say, yeah, we don't need that front leg. You take it. You've got 6 kids and you're starving. You take that. You go feed your kids. You get a week out of that leg. Not allowed to do that anymore. Just crazy, innit? Don't make sense. I mean, Mike's from down south, not far from where your family were in Cornwall. Yeah. How would they have ate? There was no boat coming in, bringing you food.
I've never been in the village.
Yeah, exactly. There was no plane that came in, and drops a big bag at side of you and said, right, there you go, it's full of pot noodles. You didn't. During the war, kids came out of school and were taken to the countryside and they picked weeds because it was food and it were medicine. And we just couldn't afford it in the war, and that's how you survived back then. That's what you did. And there's still people out there doing that today. There's not a place I go where I don't look for berries because I think, I'm going to come back here. I mean, why would I not get free berries? There's a place over there, you wouldn't put a dog in it. It's horrible, isn't it, that Ginnell? It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. But it's cropped out with raspberries. Everywhere you look, there's raspberry bushes. Yeah? So I'd only go in daytime to get them. I wouldn't go at night. It's horrible. Scary, that. It's absolutely scary. But there's loads of, raspberries there, so it doesn't make sense why I'd go to a supermarket and buy a punnet of raspberries when I can just go and pick them with Arze. And he loves it, doesn't he? He loves making jam. Yeah. If you give Zane £2 sugar and a pan and a load of fruit, he'll make your ice cream topping all year long, won't he? As long as I keep buying him ice cream. I'm annoying Marcus trying to watch the telly. See, I get to miss these messages that you get rid of. Pickled rose hips. I'll tell you a story. I was in Salford. There was a witness and he was out with his son when he saw something. I think it was 2018, something like that. And he's down in the Oval Valley bit near the back of Forest Gump. And he's walking and they see something over the not really fog, but when you get that mist over that'll lie low, like that. And he sees a tall grey thing standing on the other side of I think they were playing fields actually when I think about it. It's just like a flat field, not really a meadow, it's not big enough to be that, but just a flat field before the woods start again. And they both see something and then it goes. So they decide that they're going to go over there and see if they can see out. And he said, I realised at that point that to have seen it over the bluff, It must have been really, really tall. So I went back down there and there was a few of us with him. And I was talking to his son, and as we're walking down, I'm picking rose hips, and the lad asked me what I were doing. And I showed him, and I said, look, have a taste of them. They're like nature's toffees, them. And he was really inquisitive. He was really interested. So I showed him how to get down low and look at the deer, the way the deer had moved through. So I'm teaching him that, and I'm saying, like, look, don't run around looking for poo. You need to get your eye in before that. So I was like, crouch down and look, and you'll see the way they'd move through the grass. And then that's what you want to follow, and eventually you'll pick up on more sign. And we're walking along talking, and he went, that tree's not real. He was about 6 or 7. 7, 8, something like that he was. And he went, that tree's not real, and pointed to this holly bush. So we all look at him, and I'm like, what? And he's like, it's not real. And his dad goes over and picks it up, and it wasn't even rooted to the ground. But as he picked it up and moved it, there was a channel through the holly. Not a deer channel, a literal channel through the holly, and it had been placed there like a door. And back then, I wasn't really clued in, so it was like, I thought, how did that kid know? How did he know? He's on a lower eye level than us, maybe he saw something, but he just went, that tree's not real. And it blew me mind. I remember thinking back then, why are we not listening to these child witnesses? Because they're seeing things on a different
Perspective.
I can't say it, kind of perspective than we are. They're down low. I've got a few reports where dad didn't see anything, but the kid did, because maybe it is. I mean, maybe they do see it because they're on a different level, but he knew that holly tree wasn't planted, and every one of us adults did not notice that. We didn't pick up on that, so it was like, that's how easy it is for that kid to have got his eye in. He was like, that's not rooted, and it wasn't. It was kind of placed there like a door. So when Phil spoke about that holly shaking and growls coming from that holly, the fact that he cut it down that day, when you have fear and trauma, there has to be something that can land on. So you can't get the creatures that you've seen and experienced. You can't do anything to them. That's over and done with. That's gone. But in his mind, he thought, that holly bush is never doing that to me again. So he sawn it down. So for all those years later, he's at his dad's, I think his report happened in 1980, so it's 1999. The whole family gets together for a New Year's Eve celebration. And his dad says to him, you're not going to get scared when you're down there? And he said, I don't know why I lied. I said, no. And his dad said that when they were young kids, so him and his brother, which would be Phil's uncle, when they were kids, they were in charge of getting food in. Granddad had to go down the pit. So they were after roosting birds that night, and he said it was really, really cold. And the younger son had army greatcoat, like a wrapped round, like a cape, you know what I mean? He didn't have his arms through it, and he hunkered down like this, waiting. And he said it was that cold that they both realised that they weren't going to catch now. It was pointless. They'd been out there for nothing. And as they thought that, something grabbed the greatcoat and pulled it off him, and they all just set off screaming. And as they did that, the holly bush started to shake. So that holly bush that he cut down, Phil, his dad had an experience there probably 50 years before. So is it the connection to the land? So I asked him, I said, is that the only time you've ever had trouble with an holly bush, that holly bush? And he said, no, with that holly bush, nothing. But there was a time when I was much younger, and I did have an experience with a different holly bush where it kind of shook. There was no wind. It was a really sunny day. It was really nice. There was nothing coming in. But this tree shook. Now, we hear that a lot. There's a report in Wigan where you're on old mining land, and what they used to do is the old mine shafts, they're full of water now, they stock them with fish so that you can fish them and everything. And a lot of them are like, they've been made into country parks and things like that. So he's down there in Wigan when he was a kid. Same situation again. So same as Phil, it's this bush that's like a massive tree that's really thick. His was a big Y-shaped tree, and this tree starts to shake violently. So not as thin that you could get it like a sapling and shake it, like a big thick tree. And it's shaking, and it's doing it, I believe, in an almost get out of here kind of, because why did it not just remain unseen? I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Why did it just not sit there and nothing shook? Kids had gone past, it'd have been none the wiser. Yeah. So what's this frightening, this shaking of the tree? Is it a diversion tactic to keep you away? Or is it to frighten you? I suppose they're both the same things, aren't they? But I mean, why is it doing that? Is it feeding on your fear? And like me and Phil had a bit of a conversation about that. Were they there that day to frighten him? And I don't know. They were up in the trees when he came into that area. Where were they doing what they just would normally be doing? And he's not normally a human out at that time of night, and he's walked into that. And they've just got impatient and wanted to move him on. Is it like a tactical move on their behalf? And what we'll speak more about that when the second half comes on, because honestly, I think it is. When you look at the proximity of that to Cannock Chase, all through the UK, we have what we call beacons, and they're like hillocks, but a lot of them are all burial mounds and things like that. And back in the day, if say the king died, the first beacon would be lit, and when you saw it, you lit yours, and it did that all the way through the country, and that's how they brought you like big news. Also, if there was an invading tribe coming, you know, because there was a time in England where there were so many tribes and they were all warring against each other. And the other reason for them is because they're tactical. When you're up high, you can see your enemy advancing from all directions. And if you're at a disadvantage, you can disappear over that hill and get away before they get to you. So there are lots of reasons why strategically early man settled on these sites. And this is exactly what you're seeing in these areas with the cryptids. You've got these old ancient sites that we went to and we worshipped at. And we know that dog-like creatures are connected to the land and burial sites and things like that. But he didn't just see a dog-like creature. He described it as like two bears. So one bear running away. I don't want to put words in Phil's mouth. One bear running away. But it was dog-like. But the guy stood behind him. He said it definitely had a beard. It had a, you know, it looked like an old man, but it was thick and it was muscular. And that was that in the bushes the entire time. And they've just kind of interrupted it, like with Phil's earlier event. I don't know, because that seems too much of a coincidence that you'd keep interrupting something. Do you get what I mean? I think it's to do with the fact that his family have lived and farmed, worked in the pits, you know, hunted out there entire generations. If this guy was from Alaska or BC or Florida, we wouldn't be questioning anything. And just because he's from the UK, it's not any different, you know. But there's still people still hunt, they still fish, they still trap, they still do all of those things. But I just think in towns we don't realise that. We think none of that goes on around us, and of course it does. It does. It goes on around us all the time. We wouldn't have as many deer poached as got poached if it didn't, you know. But there are all across the UK. There are food banks everywhere that don't have enough for food for people, and yet there's more deer running around out here that could feed all of us. And we just don't tap into that as a society. We see food in a packet or a box. If it's not in a packet or a box, it's not edible. If it's not delivered to your door, it's not edible. So like some people will be absolutely astounded at the idea that you'd eat a deer or a rabbit or something like that. But if you were starving, you'd change your mind fast. You know, I'm just going to have a quick look back through. What time my pills? Am I due my pills soon?
Yeah.
I can feel it. Amber saying there, in America, the amount of white-skinned, hairless, bony, backward crabs, crawling creatures, and missing cave explorers and hikers is exploding. I hadn't heard about white-skinned, hairless, bony crabs. I'll have to look that up, Amber. I hadn't heard of that one. I've had a report coming this week of a hairless werewolf. Just like what you would describe as a werewolf, but completely hairless. And I've heard that before, so almost Anubis-like in a way, isn't it? But I hadn't heard about the crabs. But it's the same thing, isn't it? I watch a lot of programs. I like to watch survival programs, and one of the ones I enjoy is Fran and Strick. I don't know if you guys watch it, but what they do is they sail Western Australia, and they'll just pull up on an island, and they stay there for a couple of days, and you get to see all the natural foods. And back in the day, when we were all seafarers, did certain islands he'd put pigs on, and other islands he'd put goat on, and another island. So if you ever crashed there was always kind of a resource, and I like seeing it. And some of the crabs that they find are like this big, massive. Them robber crabs are huge. Like you could put them in a robot war and they'd win. You know, I've seen them nick GoPros and everything, and we don't see them as a food source. But if you were absolutely starving, you'd be incredibly grateful for that meat, and you would learn every single piece of that meat that you could eat and how you could preserve it to make it last longer, you know, and that's what us human beings do. And we've lost that connection with food. Not all of us, because a lot of people still do it, but we've lost that connection with food. We would make fruit leather so it lasted all season. So you could get your blueberries or your blackberries or your wimberries or whatever all season, rather than just, because you only come in for it. Now we have a supermarket, you can get them all year round, but honestly, probably like 5 or 6 weeks, a certain berry's in, and then it's gone. It's been, everything's at it, and it's gone, and that's the natural cycle of nature, isn't it? And I think Phil was doing that night, and they were doing the same thing, and I just think he was going that way to hunt, and they were going that way to hunt, and they disturbed each other. But that disturbance has stayed with him for the longest time. And obviously, I'm just trying to catch up on thingy. People are asking questions. Oh, I don't like the Rafe reports. I've had reports of Rafes. Yeah, I've had a recent report of a Rafe. They're hard ones to work on them, because obviously I don't know anything about them. I look at them as some kind of entity or something like that. I really don't know. But then we had the question, is there something out there that will change its appearance in a way that will scare you the most? I think what we were dealing with with Phil is different. I think he's seen, there's so many reports down there of dog-like creatures coming from all around him. And then obviously you've got the Cannock Chase, and then you've got Crewe. We mustn't forget that. Delamere and Crewe and Cheshire, lots of dogman reports along there. And I just think that there's a moor, there's a quarry, there's numerous streams and rivers, all the stuff you'd be looking for. He saw a lynx when he was younger, and he said the lynx wasn't scared of him in any way, shape or form. And I said to him, well, that tells me there's enough protein moving through that area for an apex predator to feed and to hunt. Because if the lynx is living down there, then there's enough protein for it, isn't there? You know, and I just think it's the same with cryptids. And if they're not flesh and blood, there's enough ancient sites down there that they could be connected to. And that's why they're using that energy to come in and out, you know. Like I say, I'd love to go down there and get my eye on the place and get a feel for it and see what it's like. And hopefully at some point I'll be able to do that, because it's not actually that far. I think it's only about an hour's drive. But yeah, I'd love to have a go down there. I know it back to front now off Google Earth, but it's not the same. Like real good ground knowledge, you need to get on the land and have a look at it. But it reminds me very much of Winter Hill. Saying I ate so, it's just put clotted cream is so British. It's very good. I've got scones and cream and jam. I've just remembered, because you said that now, I've just remembered I've got them. I might be having a cheeky one of them when we finished. So I'm going to go through questions now. I'm just going to see if I've gotten... Mark, what's Helia?
What?
What's Helia?
Helia?
Yeah. Is it a game? Or a film?
Yeah, I think it's that sea moose. Sea's story.
I don't know. I know you and Dave watch the same films and everything, don't you? Have you watched The Wilder People, Dave? Absolutely love it. It's my favourite film. It makes me cry and it makes me laugh. I love The Wildest People. That's one thing I will watch. I'm not very good with films, but I'll watch any of the Marvel films because he loves them. Kids love them and all that. But I absolutely love The Wilder Folk. Yeah, it's brilliant. No, Joe, is it scary? Because I'm not going to watch it if it's scary. I do enough scary stuff day and night when I'm working. Yeah. Dave, I keep meaning to get my whips out my wardrobe so I can say this is the whip that Dave Davis made me, because he's a whip master general. Yeah, it's weird. I've got two of them. Every time we had them up on wall in the old house, didn't we? And every time people come in, they'd be like, they'd look at him like me and Matt were a pair of crazy like swingers or something. They'd be like, no, Dave Davis made me them. They're the same as the whip in Indiana Jones, which is also another film that I love. So I think I've waffled on enough, haven't I? Yeah. So you might not see much of me this week. I've got to go quiet. I've got to get this talk sorted. I'm down there Friday tea. I'll arrive there. So there won't be a premiere on Saturday. But I'm hoping, because there's free Wi-Fi at the hotel, I should be able to go live from my hotel room, so I can give you an update on the conference and let you know what happened down there and all of the above. But I'll try really hard to do that, regardless of where I am, around about 8:30ish, 9 o'clock-ish, something like that. Hi, Richard. So yeah, that'll be me this week. You won't see much of me now, unless I catch you on somebody else's live feed. But I'll be back the week after. You know, don't worry about that. And I shall bring you the second half of Phil's experience. But you'll enjoy it. Kind of ties it all together and gives you a good look at like what his family members really have reported amongst themselves, kind of thing. They must have known something was going on down there, and it just wasn't talked about in front of the children. But yeah, thanks, Maggie. I am going to have a great time. I'm really looking forward to going to Wiltshire. Can't wait, actually. Don't think I've ever spent a night away from Mark, really, have I, at any point? No. So that's going to be strange. But I can FaceTime him.
I'm in hospital. No.
Yeah, other than hospital visits, that's it, isn't it, really, when you think about it. Roy will miss me. Roy will be going around the house for days looking for me. Won't he? You will. Roy will miss me. Yeah, he'll be pining probably, but I'll phone him. I'll phone him. I'll Zoom him. I'll FaceTime him. He'll be fine. Yeah, nobody's giving cheese or extra treats or tell him off. He'll have a whale of a time. Can you imagine Mark and Roy running around on Sunday morning tidying up that quick because the mum she's on her way back. Yeah, I said to the kids, do not phone me. Do not phone me on Saturday. Nobody's allowed to phone me unless your head falls off your body. You don't need to be phoning me. I ran. But yeah, I will definitely back. Dogman watches the always. I like that, hoo-ha. That's a good way of putting it. But yeah, I don't do politics. I don't understand it. I've not got the brain for it, so I don't get involved in it. Yeah. I vote because obviously women had to die to get us to vote, so I do that. But other than that, I can't do politics. It drives me crackers. I think they're all as bent as each other. I don't think there's one honest one in them. I think if you line them all up in a line, thousands of them and threw an egg, you wouldn't be able to hit an honest one of them. So it's which one's the worst of the worst, and it pick the devil, you know, as they say. Oh yeah, I'm going to take my pain meds and I'll be off. And I'll see you all in, hopefully, next Saturday. If not, I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Behave yourselves. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Good night, everyone.